what we've seen so far. Now we'll go down to the mouth of the Chena River. That, by the way, looked much better than that. So here we are in 1913 with the town side of Chena, which was competing with Fairbanks to be the dominant community in our area, in the interior. Here's a survey from 1907 that says on here that the Chena Slough was right here. And so the town site was at the mouth of the Chena Slough at that time. And you can sort of see that this is the Chena Slough at that time, coming in here and then swinging around here, although it's an interchange of water here. This is that same map but being updated in 1931. And by that time, the Tanana Valley Railroad was abandoned and the town site of Chena was abandoned. Here's that 1938 photograph before the dike was diverting water, so you can see the Chena River's got a lot of sediment in it. And you can kind of make a case for the river being connected to where this is the town site of Chena here. I think the next picture shows the town site. You can just barely see some of the old road system. This is a street map for the town site. You can see by 1938 they'd already lost a little bit of that to the Chena River, Tanana River, whatever you want to call it there. And I put that survey on there, and that just confirms or helps support the fact that a chunk of the old town site had already been lost by 1938. So what I want to do now is I've marked out the boundaries of the riverbank for the Tanana and the Chena River. And those photos don't go far enough to the south. They basically stop there. So I put the 1949 date on there just for reference. So
what's that upper water body?
Where are you looking?
On the right.
Right.
On the right.
Upper right.
Right there.
Yeah.
This slough here?
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you asked. I'm just going to point that out to somebody else. The question is, what is this slough right here? This is really an unnamed slough. It actually connects to the Tanana just barely off of the photo there. So it's really a slough or a side channel of the Tanana River. There's lots of those things. It's like a mini river, a bigger version of something like this. The airport comes in here later on, so if you're really interested in that, watch how that changes. In fact, there's all kinds of things going on in this sequence, and you can pick out whatever you want to look at. It's kind of cool. Here we are in 1949. That's after Moose Creek Dike was put in. You can see that the Chena River is already starting to narrow down. In a span of 10 years, roughly, they've lost 30 feet here and 230 feet here. I picked those two areas to follow several years ago. If you live in the Rosie Creek area, this is essentially the headwaters for Gitman Slough. There's a little bit of a connection with the Tanana River downstream, but it's primarily the connection with Gitman Slough that flows in front of Rosie Creek. Here we are in 1967. You can see how much it lost, 490 feet here, 180 feet here. By the way, if you bought a home and put it here and you figure the river's far away from you, this is the end of your 30-year mortgage. You now have riverfront property, so your house is worth even more.
You can see the airport.
So, yeah, you can see the airport getting it. When you got the slough along, there's even a bigger slough right through the middle of the airport, but it's not this photograph. Here's the 67 flood. We've seen this lots of times, pretty much everything's all done. Flooded most of the town, the old town side of Chena, except the old railroad bed and what's now Chena Pump Road. 1978, this is after Moose Creek Dam was in place. So the Chena River now has pretty much very little flow coming from the Chena Slough. It's almost all Chena River water coming in. And you see they've lost 1,300 feet over here, 700 feet over here. Your expensive riverfront property is now a houseboat. 1986, losing more. 1996 to 98, and this one's kind of interesting because about, well, not quite yet, but this channel right here is starting to form. If you go back in time, you don't really see it, but you can see water moving through there. This is a definite channel starting to form by this time. And that's the beginning of a major change. We're on 2002. Here's the really cool artifacts. Here's a jet plane landing in aerial photographs, so it looks like one plane is on top of another, but I think it's just two photos taken in sequence. 2007, 2012. This channel is obviously getting much wider now, starting to take more and more of the higher flows rather than going around through here. And then by 2015, the channel was opened up enough that only the really high flows go through here. And actually, we're starting to see willows starting to grow on the sandbars there. And those willows are going to help stabilize those sandbars much more permanently because they slow down that sediment-laden water and allow the sediment to deposit on there and build it up even higher. So every year there's a little bit of flow goes across there, it builds up a little bit more every year. Here we are in 2017, and I actually went and downloaded a picture off the internet from a place I have access to. This picture was taken, about a month ago. I didn't take it more recently because the Canada's come up and now it's starting to flow through here. But you can see that the Chena River, in about 100 years roughly, is now back to the mouth of the town side of Chena. So it takes 100 years for your cycle to go on. That's not really true. And I think you can get, there's the town side of Chena. Actually, a little bit of that town side built back up, but you're never going to find any artifacts there because that's all river sediment that's built up. And it's lost a little bit more right in there. I think that's it. Yep. Except for I now have a quick request for you guys, and then we can ask questions if we have time. As I've been referring to this 1938 photograph, this was a hand-stitched photograph, which is really nice because there's a lot of information on there. And I thought the aerial photographs were lost long ago, but I learned from Martin Gutowski a few years ago that they actually existed here in Fairbanks until not too long ago. And were shipped down to Anchorage, or down to Anchorage from the BLM office. I went down there and scanned all the images, but unfortunately, several flight lines are missing. Along here on the pile driver slough, and going through Fairbanks on the north side, and a lot of the Canada River is missing, including the mouth of the Canada. So if anybody thinks they might know where those photos are, I appreciate it. I've actually got a little brochure for anybody that thinks they know where they are, and so you can give me a call sometime. Because you can see how valuable those are. And just that, I can't really zoom into this. This is that Chena pump I was telling you about. The orientation is different because it's actually an aerial photograph. These are 7x9 photographs. They're different than the standard aerial photographs. And they're not labeled very well. This says TA, I think the Canada. B is, there was an A, which is actually the Canada River downstream of Indiana. And remember, and you have no idea what year that was or where it was. But if you see this, I recognize that as being pump house. And then I knew I was in the right place when I was looking at this photograph. And the resolution of this is way better. You can zoom into the pump house and actually look at the rooftop and see the chimneys coming out of it.
So what year is that?
That's the 1938 ones that I was looking at. But this is the actual original photograph scanned at 24 dots per inch.
And where do you think these photos are?
I don't know. There's two photographs for downtown Fairbanks that somebody probably borrowed to look at downtown Fairbanks and they kept them. And never returned them. Or they got lost. The major flight lines were missing, which makes me think somebody borrowed a flight line to do something, then put it in a file someplace and it got tucked away. And unless you know what you're looking at, but you see that, you don't know what you have. So if anybody stumbled across it, I appreciate you letting me know. And with that, I can open it up for some questions. Question over here, Earl?
When all these changes, both man-made and natural, has it enhanced the habitat for any of the fish?
I'm going to repeat the question. I'm just trying to figure out how to, what my answer is going to be first. The question was, with all the changes we've seen in the river and over time, and how we've seen the Chena Slough change over time in the Chena River with less water and things like that, is any of this habitat any better? And I'm looking at Randy up there because he's an expert fish biologist, so he's probably going to chew me out later on. Obviously, there was salmon that went up pile driver slough, which probably originally went up Chena Slough. And I don't think salmon have been recorded in the Chena Slough area. There's not much in there, but it's a good habitat for grayling, because it's clear water now. It doesn't have that heavy sediment. The problem with Chena Slough now is, you may have heard of Elodia. It's perfect habitat. It's the stuff that grows in the goldfish tanks. It's perfect habitat to grow Elodia, so it's choked in the channel, so there isn't much habitat there. We still have salmon moving upstream to go swan. In fact, the Chena River is the second most important, or has the second largest run of Chinook salmon in the entire Yukon drainage. So even though we kind of booger things up, we still got, the habitat upstream is still good. And they're adapted to swimming through all the sediment and the disturbance of things to get up there. But we could mix things up if we keep doing things. Yes?
On Island River Roadhouse, if you go back to that slide, if you can, early on, I think it can help clear up where the roadhouse was. Yeah, the upper right hand. I found one picture that of the roadhouse itself is labeled Island River Roadhouse, and it's right on the slough, so it has to be that one on the right-hand
You
side.
think it's that one?
Yeah.
That would be
And
my guess too.
Yeah, that house up there, that old place, that was Kegler, I think was the name of that person. You know that?
Right here?
Kegler or Kegler. something
Kegler?
like
Okay.
that. Yeah.
See, that's what I like about these things. I learn stuff.
Yeah.
So it's a good two-way thing. So that this is probably Island River Roadhouse. And this is probably where the ferry was. It's a bridge in 1938. This was a minor side channel that didn't actually coalesce with Island River Slough until later. Yeah, probably right, yeah.
Is that by the Moose Creek Bluffs?
Moose Creek Bluff is further downstream. Actually, that's in the next sequence. So Moose Creek Bluff is further downstream.
Or
Where
is that
exactly
by
is
North
that on Saltshire?
Yeah, that's a good question. This has actually got a little bit of the
It's
total.
on the old Richardson Highway.
Yeah, it's on the old Richardson Highway, and actually the old Valdez Trail, I think is,
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah. It's I don't think you can see Salcha on here, or the fairgrounds, but
Okay.
Salcha's in that general area there. There was,
In
Here,
your
then there
study,
was one
in
over
your
here.
study of the hydrology and whatnot, this is off the Chena River, but the FE company also built a drain in Goldstream Creek and straightened it out for many miles from about where the Gold Bridge 8 is a little less than that, all the way down to a little bit beyond Blaine Road crossing.
so
There are
the,
two channels in the valley, one straight and the other meandering.
correct, I've seen that on maps, and actually it's on the Interior Alaska Land Trust. I'll repeat the question in a second. It's on the question was, or the comment was, in Goldstream Valley, Goldstream Creek has also had a bypass drain put into it in anticipation, I think, of dredging that whole valley. They pushed the Goldstream Creek over, so that now it's going down on the north side of the valley, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, well, I think they actually did that so they could get rid of the sediment from Engineer Creek and other places that they were hydraulic.
Okay, that
There's
makes,
a bridge out there from the railroad that's half buried in sediment on the old channel.
on the original Goldstream Creek,
The original Gulfstream Creek, the railroad bridge is half buried in sediment.
there's a bridge that's half buried in the sediment. So they had,
It's 54 feet long.
Wow.
It's quite a big bridge. So my question is, do you know when they dug the channel?
I do not, and unfortunately, these 1938 photographs don't go that far north. This topo map that I have does. And if we had time, I'd bring it up. I have it in my slide presentation, as a matter of fact. So the 1913 topo map, if it's not on there, then it probably wasn't put in there. And then the next area of photographs I'm aware of in that area were 1949. So you could look at that. There was a question over here somewhere? I answered it.
There's one here.
There's one, I'm ignoring you.
I read that there are fry in the realigned Cripple Creek where you put the culvert in. Do you know how far they went up Cripple Creek historically, or anything about that?
Okay, the question was, or the comment was that in Cripple Creek, the original Cripple Creek channel, like a Justice store, there are juvenile salmon. I think they're shook. No, actually they found one shook juvenile salmon near the water wagon. They need to find one more to make it an anonymous water body. They have two in the same year, if I understand. I was personally out when they caught some small fry that I was told at the time they were grayling, but some other people looked at it and said, no, those are chum salmon, and that was by the transfer site on Cripple Creek. I don't know how far up they go, and I don't think they've been doing any trapping. Further upstream, up by Hester, there's grayling up in there. But I don't know if anybody's ever documented Chinook salmon or chum salmon up there. And they probably weren't really looking for it at the time when they bypassed the channel. So we don't know whether they historically used that channel or not to spawn it or not. But the fry would definitely go up in there. Yes?
One consequence of the early years when the connection from the Tanana through the pile driver and Badger and through downtown, one consequence of that is that breakup on what we now know as the Chena River was fairly dramatic. And there is film in the Alaska Film Archives that shows some of those breakups occurring, and it's just like photos and videos you've seen on the Yukon, for example, with huge blocks of ice half the size of this room tumbling and whatnot. So if you want to go online and search the UAF archives, it's pretty interesting and make an interesting addition to your
It
presentation.
would be really interesting. Did everybody hear that, so I don't have to repeat it? Basically, the breakup on the Tanana, or the Chena River was very spectacular back before we started messing around with the flow.
To take out the bridges in town.
It would definitely take out the, in fact, I think it took out buildings in downtown, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, there's a picture in the archive of the ice that has damaged that sheet metal covered timber building behind the Big Eye, the dominant trading company, Dominion Trading Company.
What did it do to it?
It damaged that building.
Oh,
You
yeah,
see great big chunks of ice pushing on the
I
side.
can see that, yeah, I've seen some stills from that time period, and there are blocks of ice that are probably as thick as this table, but much larger, just sitting on the bank. So, let's go over on this, I guess.
Do any of your early maps depict where the Bates Rapids were on the Tanana?
That's a really good question. People have, the question was, where is the Bates Rapids on the Tanana River? And I wondered that myself because early on the thought was, and that's why Barnett went up the Chena River in the first place, because they thought they were going to go around Bates Rapids. And I have never seen a map that actually shows that. USGS has what they call their, I forgot what it's called, a list of names, where the names are. And they have Bates Rapids on there, and they have kind of a general thing way up by Big Delta, or Delta Junction, and that doesn't make sense. It might make sense, but, you know, because they didn't really map things really.
I've got a map that shows it.
You have a map that shows it?
Bates Rapids was extensive. It was like 50 miles long.
Yeah.
It's basically just shallow, rough water with very fast. And it runs basically from about on the Tanana from Fairbanks all the way up to where the Delta River comes in.
Well, that would make sense why they kind of had this, I don't think, gave me just kind of a rough, I'd be interested in seeing that map.
I've been looking for it for 20 years and I finally found a couple.
Okay, well, I've been at this for about 10 years, so I guess I have another 10 to go. But you can shorten that quite a bit for me.
Good question.
Oh, sorry, you're a book.
Yeah. I have two. One is in the downtown area. How deep is the river, the Chena? Is that known?
The question is, yeah, it is known, and I don't know how deep the Chena River is downtown. I've seen fly fishermen standing in the water just downstream from the power plant. And my wife and I went out one day with a guy from DOT, forgot his name, Sam Watt. And he said there's a shopping cart out there. So we went out and pulled the shopping cart out. So it was possible to get out there and get the shopping cart out. But that's kind of at low water. I have a feeling when it's high, it's probably over your head.
And then the other question is, I live on the part of the river where it looks like a loop in a hose on just west of Hager Road. The river looks like there's a loop in a hose.
The Chena River?
Chena River, yeah.
The big H to it?
I don't know what I've ever, and so during the flood, I wasn't here during the flood, but the guy who lived there told me that the river, it did flood the house, but it went straight. So he said the river went straight, and so the house was kind of like on an island. And so it really didn't get as bad. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's more
whoops,
downtown.
yeah.
Downtown Fairbanks.
You looked at the wrong map.
In Westgate.
Is it on this
There's,
map here?
yeah, see how there's a gravel pit in the middle there, it's right there.
Right here?
No, where it goes north.
That's H that you're pointing to.
Okay, yeah. So, so right where the river, at the bottom of where that loop in the hose would be, he said that the river was going so fast and strong during the flood that it cut off the little loop there. And I was just wondering if that's true. During the flood, was the water going really powerfully through there?
My guess, here's the flood map here.
Yeah.
Let's see the current slide so we can see it. Well, my guess is it was inundated and near where the water could move unimpeded, it
Yeah.
moved pretty quickly through
Oh.
there.
So it didn't try and, overflow the banks?
Yeah, that whole area that was inundated, there's a map that this was generated from, and actually has water depths. So you could look at that and see how deep the water was in that general area. Yes?
Bob, I'm wondering about that area by the boat launch, Chena boat launch, used to be campground, on Chena. And where it looks like over the past 10 years, we live right in that area, the Chena has gotten pretty aggressive, and it's on the side that's closer to town. And then the Tananoff has shifted way over.
Yeah, that was the last sequence of slides I showed.
Are they becoming more demarcated, like Chena over here still?
I think I'm looking for a good one to start from.
The color of it makes you think it comes together around Howard Leeds area. Here you go.
What was the mouth of the Chena until just recently now?
Yeah, here's what a lot of us kind of thought was the mouth of the Chena River.
Yeah.
And what you're calling the boat ramp, which actually was part of the town side of Chena at one point. And if you
The
go-
main part of the town that goes on this side of the island. And so
Yeah.
by the boat launch is almost straight Chena.
Right.
Tanana is.
Think it was forever to get through these photos. Yeah, this channel here started opening up and taking most of the Tanana River away. And the Chena River was in the process of becoming more right along the bank here. So does that make sense? And if you look at it,
Yeah.
yeah, this is what it looked like a couple of weeks ago. Just quicker. There we go. So it's essentially the Chena River in that location now.
It looks like that.
Yeah. So the wetting of the waters has moved from here, as you can see with the Riverboat Discovery, down to here now. How are we doing on time? Okay. Any more questions?
So I'll be teaching a watershed management class in the fall, and using your experience and your doctorate in watershed management, what are Chena River lessons that you think students should know so that they can plan for the future?
My first and number one would probably be don't build near the Chena River. Building next to the Chena Slough might be okay because that one's not really moving around much. In fact, if anything, the banks are moving in. But the rivers move. In fact, my tagline on my email says, water always wins. You may be able to keep the water from doing something for a long time, but if you're willing to wait eons like the Grand Canyon was cut out by the Colorado River. It just takes time. So that would be one of the key ones. Another one is if you do decide to live near the river, leave the vegetation alone next to the bank because that holds the bank together. The roots hold the bank together and the willows lay over when the floodwater goes over, and that actually protects the surface from it. It also protects it from blocks of ice going down the river too. And there's probably a whole lot of other ones I could bring up too. Over here?
You know, I live up on Chena Ridge, and tonight I'm going to drive over the two new culverts, and I can see where what used to be the swampland there is all drained, and it looks like what I think is where the new second culvert, where that drained, it looks dry on both sides. So I confess I'm totally confused on how what's where and what the original drainage is and how
it's not completely dry. There is a little bit of natural groundwater contributing to that flows. It's, I don't know, maybe 5 gallons a minute or something or other. Except for, I was curious what breakup would do, but we didn't really have a breakup there.
Right.
But that was built in anticipation and taking advantage of the fact that DOT had to close down the road to replace the culvert that's there now. So we do have, we think, the funding in place to complete the entire project. And I don't.
And you're going to move what's in the other culvert to try to get over to drain it to actually work.
Correct. We're going to move the water over. If you know where the welcome sign is to Fairbanks coming from the Marks Highway, there's a creek there called Taffy Creek. And we're hoping to capture that creek and then divert the water over into the Chena River, or the Creek at that time. I got a whole other presentation on that one. I'd love to present it.
Yeah, does that mean that maybe sometime in the future, if the water does what we think it's going to do, you would want to go back to just having one culvert at the Justice Store area?
We talked to DOT about that. They're not comfortable abandoning that, and this is, let me get up to there. Would it make more sense to pull that other second culvert out?
Yeah, I guess it's...
Yeah. And you can sort, here's the original, the drain, and then this is the original channel here. Whoops, that was a bad thing. Yeah. Yeah, here's the original. They had to replace this culvert, so we took advantage of that to put this in place. And it could conceivably be that it might take 10, 15 years, but due to some circumstances, it looks like we have some funding now. Excuse me, so it'll happen a lot quicker. There is a little bit of water coming down through here right now, not much. And the idea is we want to move all that water over into the original channel. And there may be some water that goes down the drain that comes in from other sources, so they still need to keep that in there. There's water that comes off of Justice Store and some other things, and groundwater. And I've been a proponent of building it in such a way that if there's really high water and we don't want the water down there, there will be a spillway that allows some of the water to go back down the original drain. From most of this, there aren't any homes nearby there, so it wouldn't be a problem for homes anyways. But it's always nice to have a backup built in, especially since it's already there.
How about we can take one more question?
Way in the back.
How much impact does Goose Island and the dams and the dikes had on the channel downstream from the mouth of the Chena?
I was hoping that question didn't come up. The question is, how much impact, the dam obviously, I talked about that, but the levees along the Kanawha River made a big difference in some of the stuff. Some people have accused the levee of causing the Chena River to move up into where it was eroding by the town site. Let me find this is over here. You can see the levee running along here. It actually stops right here. And it runs up along here. They put a lot of these spur dikes here to push the Kanawha River away from the levee. And actually, where Chena Lakes is, that's actually the river bottom. If you ever get a chance to canoe around the part that's not where everybody is, you can see the old river channel sandbars and things under the water there. Because this was all Tanana River bottom. They pushed the Tanana River to the south. Did that answer your question?
No. Why were you hoping that question wouldn't be asked?
Because people have accused the levee system of somehow diverting the water that was going this way up towards here. In particular, some of the landowners up in this general area said that, I think. And I personally not quite sure how, just because the levee points that way, how that would direct the water there. And the water was already up there before the levee was in the first place.
How far downstream would that impact things?
It may have had something to do, how far downstream did the levee affect this thing? It may have had something to do with this eventually flowing through here though. So what that essentially did, if you're getting into hydrology things, this is a longer length here. So the slope going through here is much less because you got to travel a longer distance for the same drop. When you go across one of these cutoffs here, the slope is steeper because you're making the same drop over a shorter distance. And that does make a difference in smaller channels. I don't know about something as big as this.
Amazing. I think I learned a lot about water that I had no
Thank you
clue.
very much. I appreciate it.